This video is about the xxNetwork, and it's special. My guest, Mario Yakesetig, is a researcher and cryptographer who's worked side by side with the godfather of cryptography, David Chaum. Now, not only is it rare for such an in-depth personal interview, but his work with the xxNetwork is fulfilling the mission and vision of a legendary American computer scientist. David Chaum contributed to the development of cryptographic protocols like blind signatures and mixed networks. Think of it. David brought the world DigiCash, the first digital currency in 1995. And it's really been since 1981 that he laid the groundwork for what is fintech today. I've curated the best portions of my hour-long conversation down to about 28 minutes. He gives us, the participants in this blockchain space, valuable insight to the open source layer 1 blockchain that's solving governance and privacy with a global network of nodes that support this decentralized ecosystem that anyone can participate in. Enjoy.
So my name is Mario. I'm a cryptographer. I worked with David Chaum for years and years. I'm here to talk a bit more about the xxNetwork. David hired me straight out of college. So I presented my master thesis. I am literally in Portugal. I'm getting a haircut. I get an email from David Chaum saying, "Can you talk this week?" And I'm like, oh my God, David Chaum, one of the guys I studied in my syllabus, like the cryptography classes, why is he emailing me, right? And basically, he just hired me on that call. We are fulfilling David's vision. So David has been working on all of these problems that are now very relevant. He's been working on this stuff since the 80s, 90s, right? So David is old school. He's been working on online voting. And now that is very important for DAO governance, for example, or even the governance within the blockchain. And David kind of had like this big idea like of how it should work, what the privacy should look like, what the governance should look like, the messaging, this notion of being able to communicate privately without using one of the most popular apps that are with the tech companies. And that is xxNetwork. So if you look at all of those verticals, they're very strong within itself. So like each vertical itself is extremely strong, whether it is online voting, the private messaging, the throughput itself, like the scaling, and decentralization. So you were talking about the whole node selection. We have a big emphasis on making sure that we could hand over to the best people to run those nodes. And even today, that's the case. The foundation doesn't have any nodes in the network. Right now, I believe it's north of 350. It kind of fluctuates a bit, depends a lot. It can go up to 400 and something, but it's at 350. And we know a couple of people from the community because they say who they are, but we have no idea who the other ones are. But we really thank them for the support. You get rewards, both block rewards and transaction fees, or percentages of the transaction fees. There is also, based on the performance, it's called the team multiplier. So the team supports a couple of nodes that are showing great performance and great metrics, and it's a multiplier, like it's implied. So they actually get more rewards from that support. xxNetwork is split. I would split it into two different parts. The first one is the mixed network that would serve, you can imagine it just for messaging. So if you want to send a transaction from your wallet privately, that's what you would use, the mixed network. It would mix all the messages and send them privately. And then you have the blockchain. The blockchain is a layer 1. It has its own set of rules, specific governance properties. Some we're studying now, we're transitioning now into some post-quantum primitives. There's a lot of post-quantum work being done there. But the mixed network is completely orthogonal to any blockchain, so anyone can use it. We even have a MetaMask extension where you can connect straight to that endpoint and you send no, the MetaMask doesn't know who is sending the message. Yes, we open source everything and we publish everything. So we have a couple of papers that describe what we've achieved. Everything that isn't published yet is because I'm quite busy. So there's a big backlog of stuff that I'm trying to clear. But everything we do is published and open source. So the different parts of the system are on different repos. So we have a bit on GitLab as well. We have stuff on GitHub. We are very welcome when people look at our GitHub. We try to, whenever there's a new release, so there's a lot of work that happens stealth mode as we're deploying. But once the release happens, we open source it completely, and anyone can go edit the code, make comments. We're always love that people follow our progress. David is completely public good person. He wants to bring privacy to the masses. And even if he takes the hit for that, he's very idealistic. He wants to bring privacy to everyone. If you see David, since the 80s, has been very loyal to his view that everyone should have access to a way of communicating privately. And even today, what he wants is, oh, anyone should be able to send a message for free privately when we won't know what the people is like sending. We want to protect people's privacy. They're trying to leverage the fear. People are afraid of a big brother type of CBDC, and rightfully so. And then they go, we are anti-CBDC, just to take that easy win, right? So everyone goes, boom, you're the one I like. But they're cheating. That's a lie. They're just taking the easy win. But there's a lot of caveats onto that. That is almost the elephant in the room that people don't really see when it comes to CBDCs, right? Because a lot of the claims that are done with retail CBDCs is that you can distribute interest natively. So you can either get 2% just by holding, so it would kind of defeat the purpose of the savings account, which on its own is very scary, right? Like, is the central bank going to put the bank out of business? But at the same time, you also have the flip side. What if it's negative interest? Are you now taking money from my account just because I'm holding? So I know that BIS is exploring very interesting things with DeFi. So there is a project, I believe it's called Mariana, that literally has automated market makers. Like they have a lot of stuff on a layer one. They're exploring a lot of very interesting things with the existing DeFi primitives. Now, what exactly will be done with yield? I have honestly no clue, because it can go many different ways. So I could conjecture like what I would like to see, but I have no clue what exactly will be rolled out. I think they keep an eye on what the BIS says. They don't blindly follow. There's a lot of countries that are just doing their own CBDC. They probably read what the BIS published and what they're saying, but they went down their own path. Obviously, the BIS tries to share as much info as they can with everyone because they get very valuable lessons from very different central banks, right? So you have now projects or collaborations of like countries in Asia, Europe, South America. And that is very useful for the space in general because everyone can kind of share what would work in their nation, what would work in the other nation, how can both work together. But at the end of the day, I don't think anyone or everyone blindly follows what the BIS says. We've worked closely with some banks, for example, on how to help retail CBDC have privacy. We worked very closely. And for example, that was very funny because everyone was always like, no, there will never be a private CBDC. But then David and I did that with BIS. And all of a sudden they were like, wait a minute. It means that some people are actually receptive to these notions of privacy. And it's like, absolutely, they are. Obviously, you will face some clashes. Sometimes an app store regulation will be, we won't support this type of encryption, or we want a specific openness on XYZ. So it's always very tricky. Regardless, we try to bring always the best we can to the people, right? 100%, yes, 100%. So this one, we were involved with the Bank for International Settlements, with the BIS. We did a cash-like CBDC with privacy, and that was very interesting. They loved it. Other people really liked the idea. David and I are actually working on uh, the version 2 of that. So we have a little improvement to that design. But some conversations I've been having with central banks that there is a crucial need for privacy. You will see that more and more. So last year, David and I were technical advisors to the BIS, and BIS being the Bank for International Settlement. And we were building what is called Project Tourbillon. And it's a funny name because it's of the watches, right? You have the tourbillon movement, and it's in a typical Swiss fashion. It was named after the watch movement. And the goal was simple yet very ambitious. It was, let's try to explore privacy, scalability, and security. So can we have, so number one, privacy. Can we have cash-like anonymity for retail, for people? So that was one. Then number two is, okay, we're giving privacy to retail, but retail still needs to use it. So the payments have to go through, and you're looking at a whole nation. And then number three was security. They wanted to explore what quantum security could look like in that CBDC. So those three are already like three big monsters, let alone all three combined. So we set out to do that from a design involving members from the Swiss National Bank and David. And that was extremely interesting, super powerful, because we went with two very fundamental properties. It was one, we want privacy. Number two, we don't want programmability yet. So we know programmability is a very sensitive topic, so we'll leave it as off by default. But then the way the system is designed, it would allow you to easily go and do stuff on the blockchain realm. But the system itself, even though like the money could be on a blockchain, the money itself was not programmable. It was literally just like cash. You had a little string of numbers, you would give it to your merchant, and the payment would clear. So that's what we did. The results were very, very interesting. It was definitely very interesting on social media as well, because we kind of broke this misconception that existed on CBDCs, right? Because we went with privacy and no programmability. People were even like, sorry, say it again. What? I'm like, yes, privacy and no programmability. They're like, no way. Why would they want that? I was like, trust me, they do. Otherwise, we would never have done it, right? So that was extremely interesting. And we actually processed what would be like the equivalent of the payment data in Switzerland. So we stress tested the system, and we learned a lot of very valuable lessons on what we get from merging those three monsters into one project. This notion that it's us versus them, it doesn't really have to be like that. I believe in a synergy as long as both parties work properly together, right? If both parties do exactly what you're saying, can we improve on what we have today? So like I always say that blockchain kind of took the data away from the big tech companies only to put it for everyone to see. So it was kind of like it was not a great improvement on that aspect. It was great on the control and kind of like decentralizing the foundation, but not really, let's now put all the data here for everyone and anyone to see. So it's kind of amazing for us to now get to claim. And now that we kind of took that a bit of power away, now we get to build on these blocks ourselves. I think it's a bureaucracy. So in the United States, you see a lot of amazing research on CBDCs. The academics, if you look at the MIT Digital Currency Initiative, the group, they are 10 out of 10, exceptional. They know They know the trade-offs. They know what needs to get done. It's not rolled out. My guess would be that it's in the actual legislation part of trialing that, because the know-how, they have more than enough know-how in-house to be able to achieve that. I would say that the US is behind in rolling out. So, for example, if you look at what Brazil is doing, is very, very impressive. They're already doing the pilots, they're already trialing with the banks, they're already aiming to roll it out to the nation. So that's extremely powerful, extremely interesting, and they already have very interesting use cases for the technology, right? Versus other countries kind of have all of these on pen and paper, and maybe the scholars have studied that what you can do there, but they never really rolled it out to the masses, and not necessarily to the masses, everyone, but to a pilot, like a controlled pilot. If you care about privacy, you should take a look at what we're doing. So that would be the starting point. We take security very seriously as well. So the research that we've been doing, especially on some of the post-quantum cryptography, is state of the art. So we have algorithms that are completely unbeaten by other projects that are claiming to do like post-quantum crypto. We are very strong. At the end of the day, we have who's called the godfather of cryptography. Right? At the end of the day, we have David, and that is a very strong name to have by our side. And the stuff David comes up with is just unbelievable. You know what? 2 weeks ago, I was at the conference. It's called Financial Cryptography, and one of the biggest cryptography icons was there, and he was talking. And the title of the talk was "My Biggest Contributions to Financial Cryptography." So from this perspective, and the first slide is walking with David Chaum in 1979, because they had a nice conversation and it ingrained into David's mind that he had to do eCash. So David went home and he was like, okay, this is what I have to do using cryptography. And fast forward to like the year after, David publishes the paper introducing eCash, which then sets the tone for the entire cryptocurrency space. Like if you look at the Bitcoin forums, Satoshi talks about David. Satoshi talks about David in the Bitcoin forums. David was there. He started the whole financial cryptography field. Right now, we are bringing the messaging app to the users. So a way for users to have almost like a super app with extremely private messaging. No one will know who you're talking to. You can make private payments, almost like when you split the check, you can pay the other person. We are allowing users to send transactions in any chain privately, so not without revealing where they are, right? So when you are on MetaMask, on Ledger, and you click send transaction, Ledger knows exactly where is the computer sending that transaction. Versus if it goes via our network, we have no clue what is going on. And then your message hits the blockchain that you're trying to where you're trying to transact, and it gets processed securely and privately. We have an app called Echo X. So it's like Echo and then XX, Echo XX. That app is the reference messaging app for the xxNetwork. We will continue to support that messaging app. Everything, all the new features, new updates will be on that app. There's a lot of stuff planned for this quarter. You will get some AI capabilities, these debt simplification, debt payments, or split payments. The messaging is getting better and better. That's what I would recommend to use. You literally just need to set up a wallet, nothing else. And if you already have yours, you're golden. That's the easiest app to use. Then if you want to take it to the next level, if you're a developer, we have an SDK that you can use to then create your application. And for example, that's what we used when we created the MetaMask extension. So when we created that private, that proxy, we call it proxy with two X's. When we created proxy, it was using our own SDK. So we built it so that we use it to build our app. It's echoexx.tech. And there you will find the app and you can play with it. So echox is in alpha, and it's a pretty recent app. So during New Year's, early in this year, we released the app to the public. We're now releasing more updates. We have a couple thousand users. I would say at least 3,000 users in this early stage. And we want as many users as possible, if anything, to give us feedback on what we can improve, because we want to make this one of the best messaging apps on the world. So if you're interested in running a node, you go to our website and there is documentation there. We are very happy to welcome new nodes. The more, the better. Do not hesitate. You can also go to Telegram. You message us at the foundation directly. We will help you set up. We'll help you with any questions. Please look at that if you're interested in running a node, 100%. So the specs are close to a solid gaming computer, and this was already a solid gaming computer a couple of years ago. So now that computer is much more affordable. We require you to run two pieces of hardware. So one is this gaming computer, which you can run on a cloud. That is not very profitable. I know that a couple of people do it, but that one doesn't seem to be the way to go based on what the community does. So you run your own computer, you run Node, that is just as an OK GPU. And then we ask you to run a gateway. A gateway is very, very affordable. So I used to have one, just like to inbound messages, and it's like $5 a month. That would be, the gateway is very lightweight, and then you would be making way more than that in the rewards from the network. So on the we have websites that report the team multipliers, the expected gains, the total stake, the deflationary policy of the coin. All of that is documented. So if you go onto the xx.network website, you will find all the information regarding the economics of the network, whether it is the amount staked, the amount locked, the amount in circulation, everything you need to know. It is so transparent that all the community members like take a screenshot and they ask question every time something changes. They're like, why is there more money staked now? What happened? And they always post a graph. You can see everything there. We have nodes in pretty much every continent, even if you count North America and South America. Like we have in Australia, we have in Africa, we have in Europe. We have a lot of nodes. Some are big privacy enthusiasts from Europe, but we have them all over. So we have a strong presence in Central Europe. So we noticed a couple of people were running nodes in Germany, and we have a very strong community in the Netherlands as well. So in Holland, we have some big fans there, and after that, I would say Canada. So Canada also has big supporters. There's a couple of places, but it's also because the professors that teach there, I know them and they're exceptionally good. Belgium is a very strong cryptography hub. Belgium is extremely strong. Belgium and Switzerland are probably the strongest cryptography nations in Europe. US and Canada are a beast of its own. We talk a lot. So I have many friends in different projects, and we share ideas very respectfully. We ask like, okay, you're trying to do this. How are you mitigating this issue? And we very respectfully help each other out. I publish papers with people from other chains, with cryptographers from other blockchains. But we're helping the blockchain space. So every time we build a primitive, we actually want to roll it out to as many people as possible. And every paper I write is always as modular as possible so that you can just get that idea or that protocol, that design, and expand it and use it on another blockchain. There is a lot of collaboration. Even in the conferences, a lot of people talk with each other and try to work together. People that actually work in the blockchain space, I would say a couple hundreds, and then active practitioners in the field, you have a couple thousands worldwide. So it would vary. My first answer would probably be Stanford or MIT. They have extremely strong cryptography labs. If you're in the US, that's probably the best you can get. I mean, there's also a couple in other universities, but that would be my first suggestion. If you're in Europe, if you want to work in DeFi, London is where you want to be. London has one of the biggest, if not the biggest, research hub in DeFi right now. They're just like publishing papers left and right, and it's unbelievable work done in that space. If you want to break stuff, Belgium, Leuven, where my friend Bart Pernille teaches there, I think like every year they publish a new attack on hacking into a car. They're able to break how to like open with the fob or the car key. Yeah, those would be at the end of the day it would matter. It depends a lot on the professor that advises you, right? If you get an actual cryptographer that has been in the field and has decades of experience, you can find that in a lot of different cities all over the world. I found one in Portugal, for example. There's not that many, but you can find them. But those would be my recommendation. I think it's if you care about privacy, look at what we're doing. If you want to run a node, you will probably get a nice yield from that. And we have very strong fundamentals. Like we are very focused on the fundamentals. We're not too focused on the speculation and high returns quickly. We are focused on fundamentals, and we want to bring privacy to the masses. I feel like everyone should be anti-bad CBDCs. Like everyone should be pro-good CBDCs, not be intellectually dishonest like that. If you think about it, we just had Easter weekend, right? So you had Friday was a holiday, and then the following Monday was a holiday. So it was a 4-day weekend. If you made a wire Thursday afternoon after cutoff, that other person only received the money on Tuesday, right? So how crazy is it that in 2024, where everything is digital, uh, you pay just by tapping a card. If you were to send money to someone via wire, it would take 4 days to get to the other person. In crypto, it would be on Thursday. Like on that hour, the other person would already receive it. But there's a crazy story. So back in maybe it was in the 80s, maybe 82, the NSA decides to ban certain cryptography things. And in that year, David Chaum decides to launch a cryptography conference. So he organizes a cryptography conference when the NSA actively took a position against bringing cryptography to the people. And David tells me this story. He says that the first row of that conference, it was a lot of people from the NSA just seeing what was being done there. I think Satoshi was one person though. And then he worked with other people, but not behind his name. I think he was actively one person only, and then he probably over coffee, over meals, asked for some help and had some interesting conversation over those developments. I love Bitcoin. I feel like we should try to improve it as much as possible, but I would keep the baseline exactly as is. So the same consensus, proof of work, very strong fundamental layer one. And I think it's very exciting to see layer two developments on top of Bitcoin. I would say step one, follow XX on X. And step two, join the Telegram and ask questions. The community is very welcoming. We answer as many questions as we can. If you have cryptography question, if you have a monetary policy question, any type of question, we are there to answer.